Looks like I've got everything I need, but the kitchen sink. Before we get started, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our videos on the latest and greatest audiophile gear. So I like to refer to the Bryston BR-20 preamplifier as everything but the kitchen sink. It does a lot and it's got a lot of features. Bryston calls it the ultimate audiophile hub. First and foremost, it's an analog preamp, which is really the control piece for an entire system. But it doesn't stop there. The BR20 is also a DAC, headphone amplifier, and music streamer. You can connect multiple analog and digital source components to the BR20, and you can enjoy built-in high-res streaming from Qobuz, Tidal, and access your own music collection. With decades of hi-fi experience, Ontario, Canada-based Bryston introduced its first amplifier, the Pro 3, which was later renamed the 3B, in 1974. 1974 was a good year. This was soon followed by the 4B, now the 4B cubed, one of the most well-known and best-selling amplifiers in the world. Bryston is definitely known for its amplifiers, but it's not all they make. They've got speakers, audio players, DACs, and preamps. The BR20 is a redesign of the Bryston BP-17 preamplifier. The change from BP to BR honors Brian Russell, the company's former president, who passed away unexpectedly in 2020. So one area where the BR20 trumps the BP-17 is the DAC. The DAC in the BR20 is the BDA3, which is Bryston's most advanced DAC. It can decode up to 384 kHz 24-bit PCM and DSD-256, DSD times 4. If you purchase the optional HDMI card that is offered with the BR20, the DAC can also decode DSD over HDMI. The BR20's built-in Raspberry Pi 4 streamer is borrowed from Bryston's BDP series, and the low-impedance headphone amp is Bryston's most powerful to date. Now, you've got a few options when you order the BR20. The first two are aesthetic and don't change the base price of $59.95. You can choose black or silver, and you can opt for either a 17-inch or a 19-inch faceplate. Now, the third option is for a phono stage, which adds $1,000 to the price. This will allow you to use a turntable, such as this one, with the BR20. The fourth option, mentioned previously, is for an HDMI card, which adds $1,200 to the price. Using the HDMI card, you can connect a compatible SACD player to the BR20 over HDMI for a big upgrade in sound quality. You can also connect 4K and HDR sources such as Apple TV and Blu-ray. High-res video is passed through to a connected monitor. Now, when it comes to managing playback on your BR20, you have two options. You can use Bryston's Manic Moose web interface, or you can use Roon. To use Manic Moose for music playback, connect the BR20 via its streaming Ethernet port to your router. Then open my.bryston.com in a browser on a connected device and click the link that corresponds to your BR20. From here, you will see your dashboard, which will give you access to a variety of settings. You'll want to click on Media Player. From here, you will see the Media Player interface, which gives you access to files stored on your network or connected USB drives, plus Qobuz and Tidal, as well as internet radio. You will see Now Playing with information for the current track, including album art, artist, song title, album name, and resolution, as well as Add Files, which provides access to your music library. You can create and edit playlists and sort things into folders and much more. There's a lot of functionality, and it may appeal to tech types, but some might feel Manic Moose lacks the sexiness or visual pizzazz or user-friendliness of Roon. Now, if you're familiar with Roon, and it's hard not to be if you're into high-resolution streaming, then you know the appeal of this subscription streaming service. Roon is a playground for music lovers with artist bios, album descriptions, album art, music suggestions, and much more. If you love lots of visual appeal and rich metadata, Roon is a great choice. That being said, there are a couple of things you can do with Manic Moose that you can't do in Roon. One, you can access any internet radio station you desire in Manic Moose. You cannot do this with Roon. Second, if you plug a hard drive into the BR20, Roon will not see those files. You have to use Manic Moose. That being said, if you've got a separate server that's hosting all of your music, you can use Roon or Manic Moose to pull those files. So here's my setup today. For headphone listening, I've got the Focal Radiance headphones with a Silver Dragon cable. And then I've got the Bryston Middle T active loudspeakers, a pair of Bryston 21B cubed amplifiers, and the BAX1 digital crossover, which is required for listening to the speakers in active mode. Depth, dimension, detail. Natural, transparent, and musical. I could keep going with strings of flattering adjectives, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. Listening to the BR20 makes me smile because this is how music is supposed to sound: natural, detailed, and full of dimension. So I started out my listening with a track that's been heavy in my rotation recently, called Away from the Mire by the Grammy-winning Billy Strings. His music falls into the bluegrass, American roots categories with a psychedelic twist. This particular track has a bit of everything: doleful vocals, ethereal mandolin, frenetic guitar wailing. I can't wait to see him live next month, but for now, the BR20 was a pretty good proxy for the live experience. Clear, natural sound on a wide open stage with enough detail and separation to satisfy but not overwhelm. There's a great sense of airiness and depth such that I can close my eyes and easily envision the stage setup. The BR20 does a great job keeping up during the extended, searing instrumental interlude. I never lost sight of any of the individual elements, but it's cohesive enough to feel immersive. Tracks by Neil Young were practically made to be listened to on the BR20. The sound is natural, but also pleasantly full and robust with a fair amount of bass. I definitely felt it in my body at times. The grit and the raw emotion in Young's voice shone on the BR20. If you're a vocal fanatic like I am, you will love the way vocals come to life here. Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Light was peppy, but not rambunctious. What I did get here was a lot of detail. I heard things in this track that I don't always notice. Background vocals were especially clear, and higher register elements like piano and cymbals were especially noticeable. But it's not just the quality of the sound that was noticeable, it's the way it was presented. I felt like I was dead in the middle of the music, which occupied a 3D space that encircled my whole body. Now, a word about audio cables. Quality cables will ensure you get the best fidelity and the cleanest sound from your system. I chose to use Black Dragon cables with my Bryston setup. The one exception was when I listened to the BR20 with the Focal Radiance headphones. They are quite warm, so I used a Silver Dragon premium cable to support clarity and detail retrieval. But Bryston has a neutral and clean sound, so I wanted to add just a bit of warmth and bottom-end weight. Black Dragon cables slightly warm the bass and mid-range tones and also smooth out the upper frequencies without sacrificing detail. The natural and immersive nature of the Black Dragon is a great complement to the Bryston sound. Head on over to moon-audio.com for more about Dragon cables. The Bryston BR20 is perhaps the most advanced combination of analog and digital functionality in Bryston's history. The sound is to die for, a perfect middle ground between analytical and fun. You get the sense that the music is not being tampered with or manipulated in any way. So what you hear is the pureness of the audio, but in a musical and not sterile way. Overall, the sound is more about detail and finesse than it is about bass and bombast, and that makes the BR20 a great option for so many genres. I found it to be especially good for vocals, acoustic music, folk, bluegrass, and other stringy music, classical and jazz. Some might prefer a bassier, more fast-paced presentation for higher-powered rock and roll and related genres, but overall, the BR20 made everything I listened to sound amazing. So in addition to their amazingly clear and natural sound, Bryston audio products are known for their exceptional build quality. The BR20 is big, quite solid, and makes a statement. I think the statement leans more toward utility than elegance, but there is definitely something appealing about this design. And despite its rather substantial appearance, the BR20 only weighs 12 pounds. It's either 17 or 19 inches wide, 4.6 inches high, and 13 inches deep. Now, the BR20 has tons of front panel controls, but you don't even have to touch them if you use Bryston's BR4 Remote, which comes with the BR20, and it's also compatible with a range of Bryston products. It includes special function codes that can be used to customize operation. It's made out of metal and it's got a nice solidity to it. Each of the 10 buttons in the source area of the remote can be assigned to your choice of digital inputs using Manic Moose or the front panel menu. The 4 analog inputs have 4 buttons on the front panel and on the remote permanently assigned. So let's change things up a bit, get the BR20 on the table, and take a closer look. So here we are on the front panel of the BR20, and starting over at the right here, we've got the all-important power button. And next up, we've got the volume control, which is fully analog and balanced, and it adjusts in 0.5 dB steps. As you increase the volume, you'll see successive LEDs around the knob lighting up, indicating relative loudness. Pressing the knob in will activate the setup menu and act as an enter button within the menu. Next, you've got the mute button, and then you've got your 4 analog selectors. Then next, you've got your digital input selectors. Note that they are simply labeled SRC1 through SRC10 for source. This is the IR receiver for using your BR4 remote or other remote control with the BR20. And here you've got your 1/4-inch headphone outlet. And you'll note that the main outputs are muted when you've got your headphones connected. The OLED display features adjustable brightness white text and will display, depending on what you've got going on, the volume level, input name, song and artist metadata, or file format and resolution. And just note that the information displayed here does not scroll, so some information can get truncated. To the right of the display, you've got a bunch of LEDs indicating sample rate. When receiving PCM audio through the internal digital player or an external source connected to a digital input, the sample rate of that data is indicated by a green LED. So this is the lock and UPS. When the internal DAC is receiving a valid audio signal, the lock LED will be green. When optional upsampling is engaged, the upsampling indicator will be yellow or green. Over here, we've got DSD indicators. When receiving native DSD, the corresponding sample rate will be yellow. DSD over PCM will be green. And then last but not least, you've got the balance control. So now I'm going to show you some things on the rear panel. So here we are on the back panel, and over on the left, we've got 4 sets of analog inputs, 2 RCA and 2 XLR. And something to note is if you've got the optional Phono stage installed, the RCA1 outlet cannot be used for line level sources. So below those, you've got 2 sets of XLR outputs, and then over to the right, you've got your digital inputs for connecting your digital source components. You've got 2 AES, 2 coax, 2 optical, and a USB Type B. So above that, we've got the HDMI slots, and just note that these will not carry video. They are only for audio pass-through. Now, over to the right, you've got 2 Ethernet connections. And so the thing is if you're going to be using your remote to control the BR20, then that's great. But if you are planning to use manual controls, just note that this one is for streaming and, controlling your music playback. This one you'll need for firmware updates and for using all of the touch controls. And finally, you've got a USB Type A port for connecting USB hard drives loaded with music. If you want to learn more about the BR20, check out our written review, which we've linked below. If you have any questions, leave us a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our awesome audiophile content. Thanks so much for watching.